Hi, this is Dr. Nerz-Stormes in the lab again, making you another video to help you. This video is really important because this is something we have a lot of trouble with, which is making up GCMS samples, or gas chromatography mass spectroscopy samples. As I mentioned in the prior video, the concentration of the sample is critical. If you have too much sample going into the instrument, it will damage the mass spectrometer. I highly recommend that you watch the video before this video, which just gives you the basics of gas chromatography, or the instrument. The first thing you do when you're going to prepare a sample for the gas chromatograph, MS, is, oh, by the way, I am being very unprofessional here, but I want to say something. What am I wearing? When you are in the laboratory, you always have to have goggles, gloves, and an apron, and shoes. This is my little thing I bug you about. Shoes that cover your feet. And I will say again, it is February now. Put your flip-flops away. You should not be in lab with flip-flops, and you won't be allowed to work in the lab with flip-flops, okay? So before you start, you gotta be dressed like this. Okay, to make up a sample, your sample could either be liquid like this one, or your sample could be a solid, okay? And in fact, I believe your second sample that you run in this manner will be a solid. I'm going to be working with a liquid. What I want to do is measure out 0.01 gram into a vial, a clean vial. Now 0.01 gram is going to be like nothing to you. It's like a drop, okay? So I'm going to take 0.01 out with a pipette. I'm just going to take a drop out, and I'm going to put a drop in. Now, it's already gone up to 0.03. It's at 0.02 now. I would put no more than a drop in. The variation on this balance, just due to air currents in the room, is about 0.02. All right, so I just put a drop in there. If you don't feel confident, go down to general chemistry and really mass it out on the analytical balances. Okay, so I put a drop in there, and now it's settling down at about 0.01. All right, it will not be more than a drop. And you're going to feel really disturbed by this. You're going to keep saying, this isn't enough. I won't be able to see this. You'll be able to see it. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is a series dilution of this compound. Okay, so this is my compound. I have to add 1 milliliter to this sample. Now, one of the things I want you to really get out of the habit of doing is putting pipettes into the bottle. Think about it. Why might it be bad laboratory technique to put a pipette into a reagent bottle? It's bad laboratory technique because sometimes people use pipettes that are not clean. Sometimes people switch pipettes, or they grab someone else's pipette, and invariably what happens is we end up with cross-contamination in the reagent, and we really don't want that. So believe it or not, you're much better off measuring the compound into your simple graduated cylinder and only putting a pipette in the bottle if you're specifically told to do so. So I'm going to put 1 ml in here. Don't get neurotic about it. It just has to be close. Okay, I went a little over. If you go a little over, as I did, then use your pipette to take it out. Okay? Don't use your pipette to put it in. Use your pipette to take it out. So I'm going to take that little excess out because I'm a little bit over 1. Okay, and then, get rid of it. You can put it in our waste containers. That would go in non-halogenated waste or your acetone waste bottles. Okay, where did I do with my sample? It's hiding back here. Now I'm putting 1 milliliter in. So I have 0.01 gram, 1 milliliter. I've just diluted it. To get to the dilution level that we would ordinarily need in one shot, you would have to use a tremendous amount of sample. So what I'm doing instead is a series dilution, okay, which biologists do all the time. Chemists don't do them so often. Now, as usual, I've forgotten a component that I need, so I'm running over to a drawer to get it, and I'll be right back. Okay. What you will be using for the second dilution, which will take it down to a tremendously dilute state, is a GC mass spec vial, which looks like this. And these vials are great because they're graduated, and they actually have 0.5, 1.0, and 1.5 milliliter graduations on them. Okay, so I would take a pipette. It really doesn't matter if it's the pipette you used to take the acetone out or put the compound in, because now it's all mixed up. You might want to mix it a little bit into the pipette. Okay. Actually, I'm not going to take a pipette. Switch that. All right. The pipette could be used to mix it up. All right. But what you're going to use to move the sample is an Eppendorf pipette. That when you come in that day, there will be an Eppendorf pipette sitting out, or two, that are set at exactly 10 microliters. Do not mess with them. Don't change them unless you have a question. If you look at it and you say, this isn't 10 microliters, ask your instructor, okay? The biologists in the group, they know how to use Eppendorf pipettes. What they know is that an Eppendorf pipette has 3 settings. It has one setting for pulling liquid up. It has 2 settings where you can go down 2 clicks, I really like clicks, to push the sample out. And then it has a 3rd setting, which will actually push this off if I push it hard enough. So when you get the Eppendorf pipette in your hand, kind of get used to this 3-tiered push that's on the top. First setting will bring it up, take it out. Second setting ensures that you get it all out. And then the 3rd position you feel will push this tip off if you want to. You don't have to push the tip off. Okay, so I'm pulling this tiny, tiny amount of this already diluted solution out. Okay, and then I'm putting it in this very clean, brand new GCMS spec vial. And I'm pushing it down 2 levels to get it out. Okay, it will look like nothing to you. I've had so many discussions with students about this. Students will say, there's nothing in there. How will we be able to see that? It's a very sensitive technique, okay? So you want a very small amount in there. Now, at this point, what I want to do is take some more acetone out, and I'm really using the technique I would like to see you use, which is pour it into your graduated cylinder. Do not, don't go dipping into that bottle. We've gotten in some real bad habits this year, okay? Now, I'm taking a clean pipette because I do not want to cross-contaminate this with any of my prior work, okay? What I want to do is bring that volume up to 1 microliter. So I'm taking, you just saw me do it. That was bad. You know how they say, do as I say, not as I do. But really, go into here. What does it have to do with cross-contamination? I did a bad thing there. You can chastise me next time you see me, and I'll be more careful, okay? We all do that. But when there's a lot of students, it becomes very bad when a lot of people are dipping in. Okay, so I'm going to put in 1 microliter into this, 1 milliliter rather, into this little vial. Okay, you can use the graduation on it. So again, I prefer if you pour it out and take it in with a clean pipette. Getting mad? Okay. So, what's my time right now?
8:30.
8:30. Okay, so I got to wrap it up quick. The next thing that happens is, whoop, you put the cap on. As I said, if you have any doubts about this sample, throw it out and start over. I spilled a little bit of my sample just then. You might have seen it. It's still okay. It can work with a pretty small amount of sample. The important thing is it has to be diluted. Finally, the way we put our names on our samples, this helps the TAs because they have to run these robotically in groups. We take a piece of filter paper. This seems very silly, but we don't want to put tape on these vials because they'll get stuck in the robotic mechanism. We take a filter paper. You want to write your name or your initials. You want to write what sample is it. Your first sample will be it'll be butyl xylenes. And then what we do is we skirt it. We call this skirting it at Bryn Mawr College. We take our sample and we pop it through this little hole. And then the sample has a little skirt on it, like that. And then we put it into, you'll give it to your TA. When you give it to your TA, then it'll be taken off and they're going to run it for you to see what compounds are in it. Are we okay? Okay, so have fun in lab with this.